G'day there, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I wanted to say a quick hi to introduce you to Brad. I actually missed recording that first minute or two of the webinar when I did the introduction, so I'm recording it now afterwards. And I've got to say that this interview style presentation with Brad is absolutely amazing. If you haven't come across Brad before, he is one of Australia's most well-known names in the massage industry. He's been a therapist for over 35 years, a long-spanning career, as you'll hear some of his story, a whole lot of different experiences in there that are really amazing that we can learn from. And right now, he runs 4 clinics with something like 35 staff across the team. And he's developed a product business as well called MWax with his partner, Renee. So he's basically had a whole lot of experience as a therapist and as a very successful business person long-term. And in this interview, he was able to share a bunch of the stories of himself along the way and talk a little bit about what it's like and how you too can have longevity in the industry. Now, if you don't know me, my name is James. I am one of the partners in the Health Leader Co. We do a lot of training specifically for massage and bodywork professionals. That's both business coaching, so to help people's businesses grow better and have longevity, as well as some hands-on trainings as well. So it's my privilege to have Brad be able to present to you guys today. I hope you enjoy this, and any questions, anything that you'd like, just get back in touch. I can't wait to see you afterwards.
Which I suppose I did reasonably well at, but back in the day, if you didn't get 99 or 100%, then you didn't get into anything. So my 92% got me into nothing really. So I got into medical science. So I studied medical science at Melbourne Uni. And it was absolutely fantastic, but really all I learned was how to learn. I wasn't an employee or some type of tradesperson. I had a whole lot of knowledge, which was nothing, it was no good other than a whole lot of knowledge. So I thought, well, what am I going to do with my life? So I used my contacts, and my father's cousin was a very renowned AFL footballer and physio. So I went and just walked in the door, said, give me some work experience. And after about 3 days, I hated it. I despised it because back in the days they were using hot packs, ultrasound, and interferential, and that's all that was happening. So I found that very boring. So then I'm a little bit of a shy kid back in the day, but at the same time, I didn't mind just going, well, bugger it, I'm just going to have to have a go. So I just walked into Melbourne Park Sports Medicine Clinic and said, can I do work experience? Of which the lady at the front said no. But there was someone at the back who heard and said, no, let that kid in. And she said, we don't take work experience. And this person said, well, if someone's bold enough to walk in here and ask, then that's someone that I want to be associated with. And that person was Rob Granter, who many people might know. So shout out to Rob. I probably never told him, but he's been a massive mentor to me. And a lot of my career is based on his professionalism and demeanor and consistent, incredible attitude to not just himself, but to the profession as a whole. So when I watched Rob work, Gerhard Heckenberger work, and those guys back in the day, I said, whatever that is, I want to do that. That's me, because I like using my hands. I love the concept of helping people and helping their bodies just seem, well, if I can't play sport, I might as well help people that are playing sport. So I said, what do I need to do? And they told me the courses that I should do. I picked the one that had not the smallest amount of hours, which is very frustrating to me these days, with the largest amount of hours with the best reputation to try and gain the most amount of knowledge. I finished that course. And in the meantime, I went and did a sports first aid course. I was working for anyone that would take me on in the sporting area. Then I came back home and to mighty Wodonga, and I worked for every sporting team. I just walked in, knocked on doors, old people I knew. Can I work, please? I don't care if you don't pay me, just let me in. And that's where it started. And I just threw myself at the industry. Get a lot of knockbacks, but it doesn't matter. If you don't try, you don't get. So that's where it all started. And then from there, I was still desperate to get to the institute. And my girlfriend at the time showed me something out of the age. I mean, what 20-year-old reads the age? Anyway, it was in the age. And what was it? The Australian, doesn't matter. One of those papers that kids don't read. So she gave me this little thing called a postgraduate scholarship at the Institute of Sport, working with the cricketers and the track cyclists in Adelaide. So I applied for that and got it. And then
Nice.
Away went my career.
Yeah, fantastic. And I guess what I hear in that, which people might take away no matter what they're doing in their career, is that sticking to what you want, being able to go in and say, I want work experience. I want to go here. I want to learn from Rob Granter. Like, I know we work with a lot of people across the kind of spectrum of where they are in their business. But the thing that I see that makes people successful is exactly that. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're starting slow or you're wandering around in your career a little bit first. But as soon as you kind of lock in on something and you're like, that's what I want, and I'm going to just take action towards that end goal, it's kind of inevitable that you get there. It's just kind of how hard it is or how long it takes along the way. That's the interesting part.
It's the take action bit. That's the bit
exactly.
Where a lot of people, I've had a few people say that, you've had such a lucky career. And I'm like, that just offends me. It's just everything I did was, I got 1,000 knockbacks, but the fact is I tried 1,000 things.
Yeah.
And although I got 1,000 knockbacks, eventually you get one that opens the door. So if you don't put yourself out there, and the word I like to use is you need to be relevant. If you want a position and people don't know you exist, you're not going to get it. You have to be relevant, and then we can talk about that later as we go through some of the points. But relevant is, there's multiple ways to do so. But if you want something, you just got to put yourself out there.
Yeah. So what about, and I know you've got so many stories to share, Brad, but I do want to jump into the business side of things as well.
Sure.
What about, as you were starting the business, your private practice or your more sort of personal business? I know right now you've ended up in this amazing position with all these big businesses, but it didn't start that way. I know from our conversations before, everything starts small, everything starts one step at a time. Do you want to share some of those early steps? What was that like for you?
Yeah, sure. So I had 11 years at the Institute of Sport, which was just a dream come true. And got to experience some just amazing things for me. Maybe not amazing for all people, but for me it was. I mean, I got to go to 5 Olympics. Like, that's ridiculous.
That's awesome, isn't it?
It still seems like utopia. It's crazy. So unfortunately for the AIS, it was still a government job, and there was that governmentality. I just couldn't bear it anymore. So I was only there for the athletes and the coaches. I didn't care about anything else. And we started to get pushed towards administration and crazy compliance stuff, which to me as a kid just made no sense whatsoever. I just wanted to work. So I thought, well, I got an opportunity here to take what I've learned at the Institute, which was unbelievable. When you're surrounded by the most extraordinary people on a daily basis, and you've got access to them all day. So when you talk about the best sports physicians in the world, the most extraordinary biomechanists, exercise physiologists, physios, specialist physios, acupuncturists, it was insane. It was like the best clinic you could ever walk into. So being exposed to that and all their philosophies and mentalities, their skill sets, to have a meeting every Friday and discuss James. All right, James has a shoulder injury, and we go through the psychology, the strength and conditioning, the ex-phys, how we were all going to input into James to make James the best he could be. That's insane. That's very fortunate. I'm not going to say it was lucky, because I found my way into that spot, or I forced my way into the spot, but wow, what an experience. So I remember thinking, this is not being done in my local area. So I just thought, well, I'm just going to take what I've learned and take that into a clinic and try to expose the general public and general sporting population to what I learned at the Institute. So from there, I thought that was my philosophy. And then, of course, we had the other things, which was called business. So it was scary, but I don't mind scary. I look for scary. It's I like being thrust into something. It excites me. So when you go and you first start your business, like I don't even know where to start now, James. Gee whiz, there's a list. But first thing we did was I just had to find somewhere to start the business. So just following the real estate is really important. I actually was thinking about it this morning when I saw one of the questions that one of the people on the list wrote down, and I thought, yeah, how would I change it from when I started? And one thing I would have done is search for somewhere where it's exposed to the public, where you're constantly in the mind's eye. So rather than the cheap spot down the back in Wilson Street, where no one ever walks past, having your brand and your service shoved in people's faces was really important. So I did that. I found somewhere where it was a walkway and everyone had to walk past it. And I found that. And then I had to bargain with my great Greek friends who own the place, and they love a good debate and they love a good bargain. So, and I lived in Brunswick for 3 years, so I know how to debate with the Greeks. So I had great fun. So just that was huge. That was a lot more experience than what I thought I would need to have just to find a place. And then, of course, then you got to renovate the damn thing. So, of course, anyone that's fitted out a clinic, it's not $2 or $3 grand. It can be $350,000, $400,000. I had $3,000. So myself and Tim, my brother-in-law, thanks, mate. We put up walls, we painted, we did everything. Some of it looked absolutely bloody terrible, James, because I built it, so it was all a bit wobbly. But that, to try and get everyone you possibly can to help out, just to set up the clinic so you had a functioning office, a functioning rooms, toilets, hand stuff, and so on. But back then, we didn't have a template or a PDF file that told you what you needed. We just thought, I think that's what you need. And again, congrats to you for creating this service, because a young therapist can come in and listen to me rubbish on and gain experience from you guys. And so that whole start of the business wasn't about, I can't wait to treat James when he comes in the clinic. It was like, how do I put a sign on the wall? Am I allowed to put a sign on the wall? I'm not allowed to put an A-frame out on the road. Why not? Someone might trip over it. Who's going to trip over the A-frame? So I was learning all the policies and intricacies of what you couldn't do and laws, and wow. And I'm 21 years into running the business, and I'm still learning new policies and laws and things that I can and can't do. So when we first started the business, it was a lot about what a business was. We had to create bank accounts that we didn't know how to do. We had to have a payroll system, and I didn't even know what that meant. How to do a pay slip. And back in those days, again, we did them all by hand because we had a computer, but we didn't know how to use it. So there was a lot of fumbling, mate, a lot of fumbling around.
Look, we found a lot of the same running our clinic. And I guess, again, what I'm sort of hearing, if I can maybe draw a lesson out of that for people, is it's kind of okay to make the mistakes. And sometimes you have to. Like that A-frame thing is a classic. We come across people all the time who just look around and go, oh, every other business on the street has an A-frame. I'll make one too. And then the council comes along and says, have you got a license, or have you paid your fee for that A-frame? And they're like, what? I didn't even know. What? And sometimes that's just how you learn. You do stuff and then you get told how to do it better or how to do it right. And I think you actually still make much faster progress just by doing it anyway, getting it wrong, and then kind of figuring out what was right by that journey, And I don't know if there's more on that you might want to reflect on, but a good question from that might be like, what would you have found was the tricky parts or the hardest parts about growing the business side of things overall for you?
I never wanted to run a business by myself. I don't like being by myself. I like having a lot of people around me, and I love mentoring. So I was thinking, I've gained all this insane knowledge from working at the Institute of Sport, and for me to just keep it would just be ridiculous. I need to try to give this knowledge to as many people as possible. So there was 3 people that I absolutely loved as really young baby therapists that I'd already mentored. And I said to them, do you want to come work? And they went, bring it on, let's go.
That's awesome.
And so in doing that, I mean, that sounds easy, but then I thought, well, how do I pay these guys? So it was learning, do I need an accountant? Like, of course I need an accountant. I don't think I can afford one, but I really need one, because I didn't know that. So if I could go back and start again, it would be knowing what I needed. And when I say what I needed, the people that I needed to help me guide me through that process. So I fast tracked it. So these days it's a whole lot easier. You've got all these programs and online learning, and you don't have to do, write out the payslip and paper anymore. These things, you can just program the damn thing and it all happens. But having those people around you, like a good accountant is just extraordinary. It can save you bacon 100 times and make you money. They make you more money than you pay them. Having a good bookkeeper, if you can eventually afford one, because wow, that takes, for our business, that was taking 10 hours a week. And I was, the classic, it's way better to pay someone 3 hours a week and knows what they're doing, so I could work 10 hours a week and try to make some money. So I suppose the lesson would be is if you can jump onto these sorts of talks and use people like yourself to know what you need to know, the fundamentals of what you need to know. And once you've got the fundamentals down packed, then go and make some mistakes. I still make them now. And sometimes I just do it on purpose just to see if it's going to work. I don't know. Let's give it a crack. Put an A-frame out until someone has a crack at you, because they generally don't get a fine. You just get a warning.
Yeah, well, they take the A-frame and you've got to get another one printed. That's happened. But
yeah,
it's like sometimes I think we have to stumble in order to learn to walk, right? It's like babies. You've got to fall on your butt a few times before you kind of figure out how to stand and walk along. And I think sometimes there is a stigma built into schooling that kind of teaches us making mistakes is wrong and getting 100% on your test. That's right. But business isn't like an exam environment, right? Business is more like learning to walk. You got to stumble. You got to make a few mistakes. And guidance is great. That's our business, right? We do a lot of guidance with people through that, but we really want to make sure that they're making smart mistakes quicker. Might be a way of saying it, or just like, don't make the silly mistakes that we've all done. Learn from those ones so you can get to the stuff that's going to make it really good for you.
But you have to be extraordinary. And I mean that in the true sense of the word, extraordinary, not we tend to use it these days. But to be extraordinary, you've got to do crazy things. Otherwise, you're just the average Joe that everyone walks past every day. And again, it's about being relevant. If you're extraordinary, you become relevant. So sometimes you might become extraordinary and people think that guy's crazy. But there'll be a whole lot of people go, well, that guy's not crazy. He actually appeals to me. What he's saying really appeals to me. But if you tend not to say anything, then who are you going to appeal to? No one.
Yeah.
So I find those people that do extraordinary things, I love being around them. Even if they are making mistakes, at least they're making something. And
yeah, that's right.
Probably been my career. I haven't done all the right things. I look back and think, oh, geez. But I had a crack. And the good people around you will say, hey, James, mate, I love what you're trying, but maybe a little bit this way. And you think, oh, thank you so much. Okay. And there will be people around you. There'll be people around you that mock you. I mean, but that's life. I've learned these things. Go away. Get out of it. Go away, please. And they're always there. And if they're mocking you, there's generally because you're doing something that annoys them, in a way that might demean them. It's like, well, if I'm annoying you, that means I'm doing a good job. But you'll get those people that will go, oh, I really like this kid. He's having a real crack. But let's bring you a little bit back over here. And unless you try those sorts of things, those people aren't going to come to you. That's why I can remember making a mistake in the classroom and Rob Grana had a crack at me. Broke my heart. Like, oh, God, I've annoyed Rob Grana. It's like, oh, no. But it was the fact I was trying something different in that classroom on purpose to be a little bit different to everyone else. And Rob saw that. And instead of just brushing me off saying, oh, that kid's off his chops, he looked at it and I could see he was thinking, he's having a crack, this kid. So he made the point to come over and goes, look, that's not the way you should go about it. Go about it like this. Give that a crack. All right, can you do that now for me? But again, if I'd stood out in the crowd because I'd done something a little bit different, not crazy different, but just a little bit different to show that I was thinking, I was trying to evolve, I was trying to go beyond just what was the norm. Yeah. And I think from a therapist point of view and a business point of view, you've got to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember when I was teaching, sometimes you'd have students come in and they just do everything kind of neat, kind of normal, but they're not the memorable students. The ones that are most memorable are the ones that have a passion, and they might be stuffing up regularly, or they might be like doing things really well or whatever, but they're the ones that stand out, and they're the ones that get the most attention from the trainers too, by the way. So it's actually kind of useful when you're learning to be a bit proactive, make mistakes while you're there in a class environment, especially. Like, that's what you're there for, so someone can correct them and tell you what the right thing to do is. Yeah, and business, I guess, can have that same vibe. It's doesn't have to be taken so seriously. It can be fun, it can be light, it can be creative, and sometimes just being able to step in and not have it feel so weighty and stressful is part of the challenge of helping people get through it a bit more easily. I do want to loop around, like we called this presentation the 5 rules that Brad has for I was a strong and successful business, because I know I read an article that you'd written a little while ago that has these like 5 main tenets in it. I do think we probably should touch on those, right, before we start getting too distracted into some of the other people's questions. Do you want me to go through them one by one with you, or do you want to just talk about what you feel are the rules? What's your biggest piece of advice you can give people around that side of things?
It's probably, I wrote those 5 things down some time ago because it was after a shoot that I ran for about, it was probably 10 young therapists in there. And the shoot went way beyond what it should have. It was supposed to be for an hour, went for about 4 hours. So I got home about 9:30 at night, and I remember thinking, I'm going to have to write that down because that actually flowed really well.
Mm-hmm.
And the people in the room were saying, this is great, this is great. So I wrote them down, I think. And the first point that I made was patient-centered care, which, I mean, you hear that catchcry all the time, but what does it mean? And it's a mistake that I've seen throughout. Like, this is my 35th year of doing this. So I've seen it being done by sports physicians, dentists, everyone, is that they don't listen to the patient. They just don't. And because in one of our clinics, we've only got curtains, I can hear everyone. And they know I'm listening too. So you can hear them stuttering, trying to get through a patient subjective and history taking and objective. And I'm glad they know that I'm listening, because it makes them be aware and present with that patient. So the first thing is patient-centered care. And the first question you need to ascertain within every treatment session is, James, what do you want out of this session? And to say it just like that. Is it, James, what do you want out of this session? Because a lot of therapists, and you see it all the time, they've got limited skill set. And no matter what comes in, they just want to apply that skill set. I use cups. So they come in, they don't even listen to what the patient come in, they just want to put cups everywhere. I've got a headache, all right, I put cups. So to actually ascertain what that patient comes in with is really powerful. And if you express that in a manner where that person knows that you've asked that question very deliberately, that they straight away know that, oh man, this person's here with me. If you go see a specialist about something and they say to you, James, what do you want out of this session? It makes you think, oh, actually, good point. Like, but wow, I'm so glad that person asked that question. So, and a lot of times it might be different to what you think they're presenting with. So for instance, rather than saying, what are you presenting with today? I've got a sore calf. Okay, let's assess your calf. But if you don't know why they're there, like, so, okay, so you've got a sore calf. So what do you want out of this session? So what is it you can't do that you want to be able to do? Why is your calf annoying you? I say, well, and they might get down to something really quite simple, which is, well, I love taking my dog for a walk each morning. Yeah. And I can't do that now because my bloody calf's sore. So now you've got their goal in mind, not your clinical goal. You've got their goal in mind. And then you can set yourself that goal. I need to get that person to walk that 3.2K around. That's our goal. And now the two of us together have got that contract, is that I'll now go through my clinical assessment to see what's going on with your calf. I'll then educate you on what I'm finding and what you should do, what you can do, what you must do. And this is what I'm going to do. This is my component of what I can do to help you achieve those goals. Clinically, I'll try to reduce A, B, and C and increase EF and whatever. And then let's see if that correlates with your walking. Okay. So you treat, you get an outcome. Great. This is good. We're on track clinically. Can you please get back to me on how you went with walking tomorrow, please? So that person's like, sure. I'll call you. So on. So by asking that person what they want out of the session, and you might have to trigger a few more questions because people don't have to think about that. They just walk in with a sore shoulder and go, I've got a sore shoulder. So what do you want out of the session? Not a sore shoulder. So it might be, what can't you do at the moment that you want to be able to do? I can't sleep on it. Okay, great. All right, now we're starting to narrow it down. So your narrative will change. If they just say sore shoulder and you start doing some tests and poking and prodding, you might not be able to give them the right advice for the pain or the experiences which are negative towards them. Mm-hmm. And if they've got a slap lesion and they're sleeping on that shoulder, you're going to have to tell them not to sleep on the shoulder. It doesn't matter what you do. It's not going to change that circumstance. So you're educating the patient, but you don't know that unless you really find out what they are there for. So that's the first rule, is you've got to make that very apparent.
I even like how that relates back to the marketing side of things as well, Brad. Like, as you're talking about that, I often talk to therapists about that kind of language with their marketing. It's like, you don't really sell cupping, right? Like, cupping is something people only want if they already know that it can solve their problem. But most people don't know what cupping can do or exactly why they would have it. But what they do know is, I've got a sore lower back and I want to walk my dog every day, or I've got a sore calf, whatever. So when we're marketing, even if we talk about that same kind of language before they come in, then the people who come in are coming for the right reason. They know that you can help them. They know what you do in their language. They know the symptoms that they feel and outcomes that they want. They're familiar with all of that. And exactly what it is you do in the treatment, that they don't need to know that. That's your part, right? That's the expertise that the therapist has. So yeah, I love that. Stick to the main goal, the patient goal. What about number 2? What's the second rule you've got for us, Brad?
As a young therapist, it's to explore all your options. So I often see, so with all my mentoring I do, I'll often see a therapist will come out and they haven't even finished yet, but they're already determined they're going to be just a lymph therapist. That's it. Or they're just oncology, or they're just sport, or they're just something. I think, well, that's great. They've got an end goal in mind. But as a young therapist, if you're, let's take lymph as an example. You're coming through, you're just learning your fundamentals, learning your basics. You just graduated. If you put on your poster, I'm a lymph therapist, one, you're going to have a whole host of people around your region. They're already well established and great experience of already getting their referrals. 2, if you do get someone in with lymph and you're not as experienced, or you don't have that outcome that others do, your reputation will die really quickly. Plus, the amount of people out there that need just lymph is very limited. So when you start your career, go off into all areas that you might not think you're even interested in. But I've seen it so many times. I saw this one person go off and do a lymph course, and she only did it to get points. It was just convenient. Yeah. And she came back and she went, I love it. I love lymph. And she was so surprised. So then this person could add something to her developing career. I call it getting fat. So in the start of your career, you just get fat. You try sports. You go and do a lecture on lymph. You go and do a lecture on oncology. You go and learn about chronic pain. You just keep getting bigger and bigger in your knowledge base. So the more knowledge base you've got, doesn't matter what James comes in with, I've got a little bit of knowledge in each one of those areas now. So the amount of people that I can treat with relative competence grows. So you've got a greater base of people that you can actually treat. And you might think, actually, I'm not that interested in oncology anymore, or sports. Sports people give me the shits. And then, but by that time, after 3, 4, 5 years, you can then start to get skinny. You can start to specialize, although I don't like that word, but you can start to become quite specific with what you do. But you've got to develop that broad knowledge base to begin with. Explore. As I said, you might not think you like something, but go and listen to that person speak at that talk. Jump on these online webinars to someone you think, I don't really like that person, but geez, I might actually learn something. And you'll be really surprised, because I've seen it again and again and again. And people's careers go off on tangents where even I didn't think they'd be interested in that area. So don't pigeonhole yourself to begin with. I see it a lot, way more than I thought, actually. I thought people would be a bit more broad in what they wanted to do, but they often don't. So get interested in a whole bunch of other things. Don't be afraid to do so. Just get out there and have it a crack. And you might go to lecture and come back going, I really don't like that topic.
But at least you know, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's really important initially. And there's so many dot points that come underneath that. It means that I jump on and I go to an oncology lecture and I meet James. Might not like the topic thing. I don't think that's for me, but I've met James. And then James opens up a whole area of the industry that I haven't met before. So you start to develop your network. And the more you do that sort of stuff, the more potential options you're going to have in the future. I did every workshop you could possibly imagine. I was everywhere. And sometimes I wanted to walk out halfway through. I'm thinking, this is killing me. But sometimes I think, wow, this is way better than I thought. And just walk up and go, James, my name's Brad. Bloody great presentation, mate. That was fantastic. How'd you get that knowledge? Yeah. And then James becomes one of my mates. And inevitably down the track, James will go, geez, Brad would be suited for this position. So, but if you haven't got out there and expanded your knowledge base, tried all those different things when you're young, then you're going to reduce your limit, reduce your potential as you get older. So that's where that explore all your options, explore your patient base when you first start is really important. But get into areas that you're not comfortable with or you might not think you like. Give them a go.
Yeah. And I see the way business can reflect in that. We kind of have this, we call it the health leader ladder, like a fairly typical career path for a lot of massage and manual therapists. And the second rung, like right near the bottom, is just clients. Like seeing a bunch of people is a really important first step on your career, because exactly like you're saying, Brad, you just get hands on bodies, you get to meet people in rooms, you get to hear what they actually say and how they present, what they look like when they've got these conditions, or how they explain things in real language that you don't get in trainings, right? Where everything's so formal and so theoretical. And sometimes I think what holds people back in their career path is literally the minute they step out of school, they want to start their own business, which nothing against that. But if they can't see a bunch of clients fairly quickly, then the whole thing stalls, because they're just not getting the hands-on experience, not getting the cash flow. And it kind of just...
You're getting onto a topic which is...
Yeah, well, look,
we don't have enough clinics in this country. And for a very young therapist that comes out bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and then opens up their own place without any mentoring, any experience, there's a reason why so many people struggle in this profession. If you can come and learn off old bald farts like me that is very happy to give as much knowledge as I possibly got to you, then when you do start your own clinic, you're going to be so far ahead. And with our clinic, we see about somewhere between, say, 2,300 to 2,500 people a month.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. We get about, I think it's about 160 to 200 new patients a month. So our front desk staff are super important because they're the triage. So James, you're our front desk person. James has to know Brad, Jimmy, Wendy, Jane, John, Christian, Casey. You have to know every one of our therapists, every one of their skill sets, everyone. Sometimes you just tell on the phone, you've got someone that sounds a little bit apprehensive about coming, a little bit intrepid. They're concerned. You think, well, that's definitely not a Jimmy. I'm going to have to put them with Garvin. So we triage those people at the clinic. But with the babies that come in, because we get so many people coming through the clinic and so many new patients, the moment we get someone that seems relatively easy, whatever that means, a post-marathon recovery massage, something like that, we give them to the babies so they get exposed to something that's relatively simple. They can build their confidence, build their hand skills, build their rapport with the patient. And then eventually when we can see that, I'll say the front desk staff, I think they're ready to start seeing some more difficult stuff, then we can chuck in their first hip pain or their first lower back pain or first shoulder pain, and expose them gradually to those trickier patients where if you're not experienced, you can make big mistakes. And that patient goes, don't go there. They're useless. Made me worse. So we get to expose them gradually and make sure that we've got seniors around. So if that person needs to run next to them and goes, James, I don't know what to do. Give me a tick, wander in, assess that person yourself. Yeah, I reckon this. So treat this. I think you're on the track. I think that's where, from a clinic point of view, you can bring those younger therapists up and fast track their career, but also reduce the amount of mistakes and keep them in the profession. Because don't start me on this one. I can go on.
Well, that's right. I mean, there's lots of stuff we could talk about, Brad, but I know this is a topic that we've bounced around a few times because we're both pretty passionate about how to create longevity for therapists, and not just longevity of kind of like, that business where they're just seeing a handful of clients every week and kind of not doing anymore, but actually a successful, thriving, abundant career that's really long-term and sustainable. Let's pin that for a sec. Let's pin that for a sec. Let's go number 3. So what's number 3 on your list, Brad?
Number 3 is educate your patient. So I remember when we first started, there was myself and Jimmy and Vicky and Nina, and we sat there, and the one thing that we all agreed upon was the people that we love to see are the people that told us everything about our presenting situation. I've got shoulder pain. All right. So you've got shoulder pain for these reasons. This is what the type of shoulder pain you've got. You can't do this anymore. All right. For at least 3 or 4 weeks for these reasons. We're going to progress you this way. And this is going to be the outcome, but it's going to be a little bit like this. So I think, wow, I now know everything about my shoulder pain. You'd walk out thinking, okay, I know my path. I know there's going to be a couple of hiccups. I know this is what I need to do and so on. So I said to our guys, we need to educate our patients way more than the average person. Now, not every patient wants to be educated. They're like, I don't want to give it rat's backside, mate. Just fix my shoulder and talk about the footy. But the bulk of people, and this is where I remember Jimmy very early on saying to me, he goes, this is amazing, Brad. The amount of people that have said, no one's ever told me this before. And I'd say, but what did you say? And he goes, I didn't say really anything. I just explained to what shin pain was and why they got it and what was going on. And I said, well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of the therapists out there might just go, I've got shin pain, and just start rubbing it. Or they don't explain to the patient why you're rubbing it or what your alternatives are, or you might need to get a scan. And if you do get a scan, this is what they're looking for. And if they find this, then you might have to go through this protocol. So you educate the patient, so the patient now doesn't rely on you for, which sounds crazy. Surely you want them to rely on you, but no. The more you educate your patient, the more they appreciate what you've done.
Yeah.
And then they'll go and see this guy James. Like, I went to see this guy James about my Achilles. I feel like an Achilles expert after that session. Like, I know exactly what's going on. You've got to go see this guy, rather than I went there and someone rubbed my calf.
Yeah.
So that has been something that we've really pushed hard. And all the younger ones, I explained to them, you've got to understand the anatomy, the pathology, the etiology, the population that type of presentation tends to occur with, the prognosis, which is super important to understand, the treatment options that we have, the treatment options that other people can supply, and the progression of all those things all put together. So it's a lot of knowledge you got to get to know. But my catch cry is, if it's not competence, then it's guessing. So I don't want to guess. So if I've got all that knowledge and I explain to someone, if you do see a specialist, this is what they're going to look for, and this is their role. They love that. Then they get this whole picture. So you almost become like the overseer of their shoulder pain. And you think, well, is it my role to be the overseer? But I find in my career that very few people want to take on the overseer role. They just don't, whether it's laziness or can't be bothered or don't know or think someone else is going to do it. And but whatever the case, you can be that person. It's just educating the patient But of course, to educate them, you've got to educate yourself first.
Yeah.
And you've got to know the 12 type of headaches. You've got to know all that stuff. So when they present, you can go, well, listen, you don't actually have a cervicogenic headache. You've got a cluster headache. And we really need to be careful for those reasons because it's blah, 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 blah. I think, wow, I haven't heard that before. So to educate them, they feel empowered and they love you for that. So it's not giving that patient away. It's creating a referral source.
And I love the idea. I think when you say education, I know what people are going to jump in. They're going to think, oh, I've got to teach my clients anatomy and all the details of everything. And like some clients might actually be interested in that. But I think the education that I see being more important anyway is exactly what you said just then. It's more like, what do I need to teach them about their condition that's going to empower them to take control of their own healing journey right now? And actually, anatomy might be a small part of it, but it's more about this is why it's happening and this is what you need to do next and this is how I'm going to help. And it's almost like just pacing out a plan for them and giving them enough detail of why that's going to work, that they trust it. And once they trust it, they'll do it and then they get a result and then everybody's happy.
Yeah, it is. It's like forming a contract with the builder. If the builder says, these are the things that you need to do, right? You get them done. This is what I'm going to do. Are you happy with that? Great, let's go and we'll meet in the middle. And it's the same with any patient, is that they need to know what role they have in their outcome and what role I have in the outcome and where I'm limited in my role and where we might have to go to a third party or a couple of other parties to explore other avenues, to explain that whole thing. So they walk out knowing exactly where they are with regard to their shoulder pain.
Yeah.
They don't walk out asking questions.
It actually leads neatly into number 4, Brad. What's number 4 on your list?
Know your limits.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting one. It comes down to ignorance and ego and potentially arrogance and all sorts of things, but not necessarily putting it in as a limitation, but if you know your limits. So again, James comes and sees me. He's got a particular type of shoulder pain. I know my skill set. I know what I can achieve with the skill set that I have. I also need to know what I can't achieve. So, and the bits that I can't achieve, then I've got to make sure that I farm that out to someone else that has that skill set. Now, a lot of people go, I'm not referring that patient. I'm not going to do it because I'm going to lose them. You don't lose them. Can I just please tell people that? You do not lose that patient. If you say to that patient, James, look, I can only give you some range of motion in the shoulder and I can establish that to the best of my ability. I can give you some baseline exercises. I'm not bad at it, but Marcus is so much better at me at doing that sort of stuff. I think you'd be way better off with him because you'll get a better outcome than what I can provide. Are you happy to see Marcus? And they're like, sure. So they're not going to look at you going, you're useless, because you've already put forward where your skill set is. And knowing that limitation allows you to have better patient outcomes because that patient's going to be way happier. Like I went to see Brad. Really good. Like he did give me so much more range. And he's referred me to this guy, which is really good. So I'm going to go to see this guy. He's going to do all the strengthening protocol. So you go home and you think about the conversation that person has with their spouse when they get home. It's not going to be a negative one. It's not going to be, I expected him to do the whole lot and he didn't. He farmed out to someone else. It's like, no, he did a great job. He told me exactly what he could do. I've got to go see this guy, which he's recommended. Yeah. So if someone else turns up with a shoulder problem, they're going to say, go and see this guy, Brad. Like he gave me some unbelievably good shoulder stuff and he's recommended to other guys. So it creates that network for yourself and for the patient. But you've got to know what your limits are initially. And that's difficult when you're a baby therapist because you haven't been exposed to a good osteopath, a good sports doc, a good sports physician, a good psychologist. And you can't look up Google good psychologist or good whatever. It's just you have to go and find people that you appreciate. To build that network can take time. But once you've got that network, you become a part of the network. So understanding your limitations, like I'm not going to sit there and counsel someone. I'm not a counselor. I can give them my very brief little bit of knowledge. Say, hey, listen, I think you'd be really it'd be really worthwhile seeing a counsellor. In fact, we've got a list of 4 people at the front desk that you can see if you think that might help you. So understanding your limitations, then understanding who you can then refer to is such a powerful thing. And at the Institute of Sport, our limitations got exposed on an hourly basis because we worked out in the open. The tables were all beside each other. We could all watch each other work. And I remember thinking, you should not be working on that hip because your skill sets are shit. Whereas they look at me and go, don't give that exercise, Brad. You really don't know what you're doing. So you being exposed to that all day, every day, made me understand where my limitations were and where my strengths were. And then as a young bloke, I wanted to be good at everything, but it took me a while for my ego to get under control and go, what am I doing? I'm really good at this stuff. This is my wheelhouse. So I'm going to focus on my wheelhouse. And then I'm going to get all these people around me where my skill sets aren't great. And I'm going to be happy with my wheelhouse. I don't have to be everything. Because as a young fella, I just wanted to be everything to everyone. And as I grew up, I realized that was just so stupid. But having that one skill or a group of skills that allowed me to achieve particular goals was enough. And to understand my limitations and then explore those by creating a network, that's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. Just to be able to ring up a sports physician going, Rob, mate, I've got this James fella for you. He's a bit of a cowboy. But listen, this is what the president, and then you get a sports physician goes, mate, thank you so much. That's great. I'll let you know how I go. That's so powerful. Patient,
And from the patient's point of view, you are still solving their problem. You're solving it by referring them to an expert with that specific skill set or that specific outcome that they can provide. So you're performing your role as the health leader, as the person who's in that room at that moment, giving the right advice.
And knowing those limitations and referring off, eventually, not all the time, it's not going to be a perfect world, but a lot of people will go, gee, Brad's sending me quite a few people. This is bloody good. I really should send him some back because his hand skills are way better than mine. What am I doing? So you will start getting that cross referral. And in a big clinic like ours, where you've got 35 people, we can refer in the clinic.
Yeah.
And I can say, listen, thank you so much for coming to see me, but James is way better at this than me. Like I'll set you up for this session and I'll give you some home-based stuff you need to do, but you really need to see James because he's knowledge-based. And to be able to do that is a real powerful thing. And it feels good because you know that the patient is going to get a better outcome.
And even that almost leads us into number 5 really neatly too, Brad.
Yes. Number 5. They also interlink, don't they? Number 5 is probably me being a nerd. It's understanding your options. My family's been afflicted with we must know. So still today, to this day, 2 mornings a week, I leave an hour to an hour and a half to research. So every Tuesday and Thursday mornings, I'll be doing online lectures or reading research papers or watching a YouTube clip that someone sent me, or there'll be a patient where I'm thinking to myself, damn, I didn't have enough knowledge, and I'll dive into the books and I'll learn. So you don't understand what your options are unless you explore those options to the nth degree. So getting down to, like I'll say to the juniors, all right, so when you apply pressure, moving from the tendon to the muscular tendinous junction, moving away from the attachment, what are you achieving? And they'll look at me thinking, make it looser? I think, no, we've got to be better than that. All right, so what physiologically are we trying to change? And you can see them thinking, going, we didn't learn this at school, Brad. Well, we have to understand what a Golgi tendon organ is, what a muscle spindle is. And if you want to reduce tone, then how do you do that? So, with the Golgi tendon, we know that if you apply pressure through that tendon and create tension, then the Golgi tendon will fire. And when it fires, that's the afferent that runs the central nervous system, and the efferent that comes back, which is a reflex, is to have a decrease in alpha motor neuron. Now, that all sounds like gobbledygook, but when you understand it, you think, oh, wow, okay, So if I want to reduce muscle tone, then if I apply it in this direction, I'm going to have a much greater physiological chance of achieving that. So you start to understand what options you have because you understand the physiology, the anatomy, the pathology behind it. Now, it might sound a little bit nerdy, but once you've got that baseline knowledge, someone can come in and you think, I actually don't know exactly what's going on with this person because their presentation is complicated, but I know I can change some tone or pain here because I understand how to decrease that pain receptor. I know how to fiddle around with muscle spindle. I know how to fiddle around with the Golgi tendon. And that it's not, that knowledge sounds a little bit scary to a lot of people. It's not that hard. And once our guys at the clinic understand that, I can actually hear them talking to patients. Sometimes they verbalize it to the point I think the patient doesn't care about their Golgi tendon organ. But I can hear them saying, look, I'm to reduce the tone, because you can really feel the increase in tone in this area. I'm actually going to apply a technique which draws across the musculotendinous junction where we know that the bulk of Golgi tendon organs is. And when we create pressure through that area, is that they fire off, and the resultant is a decrease in alpha motor neurons. The person goes, whatever, sounds great. But the fact that they can verbalize that knowledge means that every time, again, going back to Rob Grant again, that taught me every single stroke that I applied had to have intent and purpose. Everyone. And when he was mentoring me, if he could see me daydreaming or wander off, oh, the look. It was, if you're not here, then get out. If you're not here, then let someone else come along and do it. I was like, whoa, holy smoke, I really have to focus. So every stroke has to intent and purpose. So I had to go and learn what that intent, what that purpose was. So if someone comes in with DOMS, what am I trying to achieve? What is DOMS? So once you understand what DOMS is, then think, well, what techniques have I got that could actually change that? So again, it becomes so purposeful. So understanding your options and every option you've got, understanding all your techniques. I mean, just don't go do a cupping course so you can give someone sexy bruises. Understanding what cupping actually does. You understand that option, so therefore it becomes indicated. So rather than, oh, bugger it, I'll just do some cupping at the end because it looks like fun, is that you understand when that technique becomes indicated or when that protocol becomes indicated. So a lot of people just apply any old protocol and are looking thinking that was not indicated. Where did you lose that connection between understanding the presentation and having all these options? Where did you lose that connection? And that's understanding those options, the science behind those options and how they relate to a particular presentation is super important. Otherwise, you're guessing. I'm going to do a trigger point because that's the only thing I can remember how to do. The fact that I don't really understand why the trigger point's there in the first place, and I'm not even going to try and understand that knowledge, that's not good enough. If someone's got a trigger point, why do they have a trigger point? Yeah, we've got techniques that can reduce trigger points, but you need to understand why it was there in the first place. Is it why did that muscle end up in such a state that it developed a trigger point? It's crying out for help. So you need to not just hit the trigger. That's just a portion of the body saying, hey, we've got a problem down here. Don't just treat the symptom, you've got to treat the sign. And understanding all your options and how they work physiologically and so on is super important. It makes you a great therapist rather than just a good one.
I love it. And I guess I can relate too, because I sometimes see people who learn something new and they get super excited about it, which is awesome, but they start to just think, oh, I can solve every problem with this. And I guess what I hear you saying is like it's fantastic to have a range of tools in your toolkit, but then it's also about identifying when I'm going to use each one and why. And once you've got that understanding, that's like next level. Then suddenly you're the master with all the tools and you can pull out the ones that can be most effective in any situation, which is really amazing. Yeah.
Otherwise, that grand old saying, if you've only got a hammer,
everything looks like a nail. Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for your advice so far, Brad. I'm a bit aware, like we've been sitting here for 60 minutes already. Absolutely, time flies so fast. we haven't got to many of the questions that people asked yet in the group. If you've got a bit more time though, Brad, I'd love to.
I do, because I pushed my workday back, because this sounded like a good excuse to do so.
Awesome. That's cool. Well, we might see if we can sit here for a few more minutes anyway and go through some of those questions. And we do also have the MWax prize to give away. So we've got $500 worth of MWax products, or basically like a $500 voucher to purchase MWax products. MWax is it's not even just a single wax now. It's like a range of waxes and products for massage therapists specifically that Brad and Renee have developed and then launched as a whole separate business thing. What I'm thinking we might do, Brad, is I need a minute to get everyone's names out of the chat and pop them in a little like wheel thing. Maybe we'll do a few Q&A things while we're getting that ready, and then we'll draw the prize. And I'm going to give it away only to people who are live on the call. So that's kind of my caveat. If you want the prize, stick around. We'll do some Q&A for a few minutes. I might even say to people who are here in the webinar, if you've got a question you want to ask Brad, feel free to drop it in the thing there. I can't guarantee we'll get to all of them because, as you can see, Brad loves sharing all that knowledge. And I reckon it's going to be like 2 questions will take us another 20 minutes, Brad. It's good fun to be able to chat. But some of the questions we had through earlier, let me pull them up. Some of them were fairly practical, but I thought one that might go well for people who are wanting to build their business was this one that's, can you share any innovative marketing techniques that have been successful for your own business? Brad, I guess like as you've grown from the start through to where you are now, there's a lot of growth along that journey. Yep. Like what's marketing looked like? What has worked really well for you over time?
Number one marketing technique by far, second place is in the mountains behind you there in Canada, is self-massage talks.
So what was that? Self-massage?
Self-massage talks, presentations.
Oh, right. Okay,
by far. It's gained us over the years. I know it sounds crazy, but it'd be thousands of people to the clinic.
Wow.
It's our greatest tool and we don't use enough.
Okay,
so
great.
If you learn a whole bunch of self-massage techniques, like using a tennis ball, using a towel, using a roller, understanding how you can help people with posture with these techniques, how you can help people with freeing up their hips using tennis balls and different paraphernalia. You take that to a group of people, and it might be, and I've done this talk, I can't tell you how many times I've done this talk. It'd be beyond 500 times. So I used to do it at the Institute of Sport all the time, and then I just took it out, and I've done it to the Department of Finance. I've done this to a bunch of sporting teams, a group of female cyclists once who just loved it. So why I love this as a promotional tool is that you put it out there saying who is interested. I'm going to do a presentation on self-massage techniques for cyclists. Straight away, you'll get a particular population that are cyclists that are interested in looking after their bodies. So, and they get put in front of you. So you can't buy that. That's incredible already. Now you've just got to have the gift of the gab and have a skill set to be able to present that information, that self-massage information that is appealing. Inevitably, you'll take them through the routine and say, listen, we can ask questions, but we'll ask questions at the end. So you can go through how to use a tennis ball and the TFL, the glute med, the go-go's, your hamstrings, and all that sort of stuff. The different types of tools you can use, why you do it, when you wouldn't do it, all the frequently asked questions. But at the end, inevitably, when you go, look, great, thanks so much for coming along, guys. We want to do this again. If you've got some more questions, we can certainly set up another night. Thanks for coming along. A group of people wander up going, James, Payne, that was great. Listen, I've got this Achilles thing going on.
Yeah.
And so you'll get 3 or 4 people at those nights that will book in the next day. It happens all the time. I've just done it recently where I thought I want a few more runners in my, I love running. I love treating runners. So I thought I'll do a self-massage for runners. So I capped it at 8. So we had 8 people. We ended up having like 25 people on the wait list. So we had 8 people, and every one of those 8 people booked in. Every one of them. One, because I can talk underwater, I suppose. But with my experience with running and the presentation, it just put them in front of me.
Yeah.
So how else are you going to do that? So that's where, for me, self-massage talks are absolute gold. And I'd go there 10 times before I did anything else.
I love that, Brad. What a great thing. And I would also say, I know there's going to be some people who are like, oh, but I don't have the gift of the gab like Brad. But to those people, I would also say it is a skill you can just learn, especially a presentation like that where you're teaching a physical activity or like a sequence. You can plan that out nice and easy in advance and make it something that you are comfortable with. And once you've done it a few times, then you get really comfortable with it. So even if you're not Brad right now, you're not an authority speaker right now, you can work your way there. It's not impossible to be able to make
what we started off with, mate. You've got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And you might make a mistake. The worst thing is someone asks you a question, you don't know the answer. Just say, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer.
Yeah. I'll come back to you. Book in next week and I'll make sure I know the answer by then.
You're still going to give them a whole lot more knowledge than they had in the first place. Yeah. A lot of people don't want to present because they think there's going to be someone there that's going to know more than me. And if there's someone there that knows more than you, I don't know why they were there in the first place anyway, but it doesn't matter. You're not presenting to that person. You're presenting to all the people that don't have that knowledge. And it can be on lymph, like how you do self-massage techniques for lymph. It can be on any topic that you have got a special interest in and potentially a skill set in. Yeah. You go down to mighty G-Town and you listen to yourself or crazy Stuart Hines and think, wow, I'm going to go back to Shepparton now. And I know a group of people that I can present this information to teach them. So you go to the local arthritis foundation and say, do you mind if I do a self-massage talk on how to reduce your symptoms? They're not going to say no. Well, they might, but geez, it'd be rare, eh? And then you get shoved in front of that group of people. You section it out. You always never ever do. If you're going to do an hour talk, always make sure you only do half an hour material because it always goes longer than what you think it's going to go. And you can always cut it short if you need to. But you present that information, you're going to have more knowledge than the bulk of people there. So it's such a powerful thing to do, and it really opens you up to patients that you want to see and that actually want to be helped because they've already made the effort to come along.
I love that. And I love the idea of going to groups that already exist too. My background is a little bit different, but in my business, I used to do quite a lot of small business talks locally. The local council, actually, you mentioned the local business development unit at council. I used to do a bunch of talks there, and it's the same thing. It's like I would be standing in front of a room teaching about marketing and business to a room full of 20 or 30 of my ideal clients, teach them a bunch of stuff for an hour or two, and then they all know who you are. They all know that you know your stuff. They all trust you. They've all seen you in person. They know what your voice sounds like. It builds relationship really, really quickly and well. Yes. So I love that.
Relevant.
That's a really good hot tip, Brad. I've written that one down, which is cool. What about one of the other questions we had was like for you? Literally the question was, if you had to pick up and move your clinic to an area you haven't lived in or near before, so basically starting from scratch, what actions would you take to set things up for success?
Find a dwelling in a main street with walk by to be visible. Is really, really important. I'm not sure if anyone's been on holiday and been walking along and you're going, oh, there's a remedial massage place. Yeah. So, I've done it. So be visible. 2, do the self-massage talks straight away. Just get out there and ring them up and say, hey, listen, you guys, my name's Brad. I really would like to do a presentation for you guys if you're interested on self-massage and how you can help free up your own hips or your own neck or whatever it might be, depending on the participants. Definitely do that. I wouldn't even hesitate to ring up the local sports physicians, GPs, and so on. And look, someone said to me about 20 years ago, you've got to have 5 business ideas to have any one that's going to be successful. I think that was wrong. I think you've got to have 10 business ideas for every one to be successful. But you might go to make 5 phone calls and 4 of them will say thanks but no thanks. But you'll eventually get one. Yeah, I'll have a cup of coffee with it. And then again, you're face to face with that person having a coffee, and you can put your elevator spiel across, whatever your mantra is, like, this is what I do, this is my skill set, I'd love to work together if we could. Then again, you become relevant. You don't do that, and you're thinking, why aren't I getting any referrals? Is that, again, you've got established people there, number one. Number two, that if you don't put yourself out there and make yourself relevant to that person, especially face to face, which is so important, if you don't do that, they don't know you exist. They've got to know you exist.
Yeah.
So I remember getting on the Sports Medicine Australia board here in the ACT, and then eventually became the president, and I was president for 3 years. And that exposed me to dozens and dozens of people, sports trainers, which was a really interesting one. I got to meet dozens of sports trainers. And of course, sports trainers see things happen on a sporting field, do their first aid, and then go, don't see this Brad bloke. He seems to be really good with cars. So just exposing yourself to all those people in different, you see, it doesn't have to be presentation. I got myself on committees, and it does take time, but if you want to be successful, you've got to do this stuff. The people that have done really well just put themselves out there. You know?
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, my background is in marketing and business, so I 100% agree with that, Brad. It's like when we speak with massage therapists, so many of them will say things like, I don't want to put myself out there. You know, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want this. I don't want that. And I think a lot of the time it's because they haven't had any business training or experience in their past. And so they're on the receiving end of a lot of like cheesy, horrible marketing. They're thinking of like used car salesman or something. And they're like, I don't want to be like that. It's like, actually, none of what you've said, Brad, or none of what we teach is anything like that kind of marketing. It's all very authentic. It's very personal. And the reality is, if you want to run a business, people have to know that you run a business. Like it's fundamental, right? They have to know that you exist. They have to know. So you have to be able to, in inverted commas, put yourself out there. You have to be seen. But we want to make sure that it's seen for the right things, seen in a very natural way, a very easy way.
Yeah, I'm a goody two-shoes. The thought of misleading people, it kills me. And when I see misleading stuff on the internet and on crazy Instagram, and oh man, it makes my blood boil. And in Australia, it's called APRA, so the registered professions aren't allowed to do that because they'll lose their license. But of course, Instagram isn't just Australia. We get to see those
everything going on everywhere.
Yeah, and the stuff that I know we've got an American on, so I apologize, but some of the stuff that I see coming out of America where there doesn't seem to be any rules, and people saying, I fix frozen shoulder. I think, what? Just to make that suggestion makes my blood boil. They might suck some people in, but to me, that's just so misleading and unethical. So how do you do it in an ethical, educational way? It's often a little bit more difficult because if you can be misleading, it sounds like you know something and no one else does. And I can see that that might actually gain some patients, but I'd rather not have those patients. I'd rather those more considerate patients, those ones that are more likely to go, well, this person looks like they're grounded and ethical and have given me hope, but not false hope in the way they're presenting themselves.
Yeah. We've got a few more questions coming in, but I want to keep us on track a little bit, Brad. And I guess what I'm hearing in that too is some people might come up against those kind of fears or rationalizations of I don't want to be misleading, I don't want to do this, I don't want to look cheesy. But what some people do is they just stop. They're like, oh, well, that means I can't do anything. You know, that's it, I'm out. And they just kind of step back. But what I'm hearing from your story, Brad, is it's not like that. Like you're saying, to get to where you are right now, there's a whole history of decades of just hitting that kind of limitation, going, well, what can I do anyway? Or who do I know? Or how can I work around this? Or like, what's the solution? And I'd probably like that to be the big takeaway from this whole thing, is just listening to every story you've shared and every single thing that's kind of been across those 5 rules and all the stories, is that kind of determination to just be like, do more training, keep doing this, make mistakes, stand back up, figure it out, keep going. And marketing and business is no different. That's part of the whole thing. When we see people fail, it's because they've got to a point where they're like, I I don't like business. I don't want to put myself out there. But instead of figuring out how to make it work or how to find something that they can do that they like, they're just like, oh, well, that's it, I'm out. And nothing wrong with going and working for someone else. That's actually a great alternative. But what we don't want is for them to think, oh, the business side of things was too hard, so I'm out of the whole profession. You know, I'm working down at my local supermarket now, and I'm like, oh, that's what we're here to stop. I know that's a huge thing for you too, Brad.
Desperately need more businesses to succeed. We really do, because if we don't have the older experienced ones mentoring the young ones coming through, then that first 3 to 5 years of their career might be so arduous that they look for something else.
Yeah.
So to be able to step into, if we've got enough people that get through those first couple of years and make a successful business, and then bring people on underneath them that they can help and mentor and grow, for the profession, that's huge. It's massive. Like, you look at a young physios don't go out and start their own clinics. They've got 100 clinics to choose from, and they'll go and choose the one that looks like it's going to fit them the best. And then they grow within their clinic. They might stay within their clinic, but they'll grow and think, you know, I've got an area that I want to specialize in. I've gained all this knowledge, and now I can move on and take that and expand it into that little niche area. But we've got to have those initial people that get through in the first place. And look, to me, and this is what I look for in like future employees, you want to talk business, is I look for personality, character, and passion. It's the other way around: passion, personality, character. So if someone's passionate, I don't care what their skill set is or what their theoretical skill set is. I don't care. As soon as I can see that passion, come, please, 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 please. May I please help you? Can I help you? Because that anyone who's passionate is going to make it. They're eventually going to get there just through pure passion. They happen to have a bit of personality, then that's fantastic. And then that character, that bit at the end, which is more like your integrity and so on, you always look for that because you want to make sure you're dealing with someone of good nature. But to me, the moment you're passionate, and you think of what makes a passionate person, they're in your face, and they're consistently upbeat. They're always asking questions to the point of pure annoyance. And that's where some of the best therapists that I've ever mentored, they annoy the crap out of me. 10 o'clock at night. I don't know if this person or these two people potentially might listen to this, but you know who you are. I get messages at 12:15 in the morning, at 5:30 in the morning. Get phone calls at 9:40 at night. I've had this idea. As much as you think that's annoying, I love it because they're so passionate. And I'm at a part of my career now where I want to be around more passionate people. I need as my energy is going to wane as the years roll on, like it hasn't yet, but I can see it might happen. I want to be around passionate people. Yeah. So passionate people, anyone out there who's passionate, who wants more knowledge in particular, because we've just talked broad sweeping stuff today. If you've got to be passionate about a particular area, man, I love those people. I just want to be around them all the time. They're the ones that I can see are going to succeed, learn, listen, and create. And we need more people to create businesses, successful business, just not for themselves, for the profession. Because
I completely agree. And like I was saying before, we have this kind of ladder of career, and we often see people dropping off like in those first couple of runs, where I was saying if they can't get that momentum with clients, if they're not working for someone else, they will often block out. But then as they build, the next level where we see people drop out or decide to exit the business is if they're a solo operator, they're working really hard, but they don't have that kind of support network around them. So the only way they make money is when they're seeing patients, and they're probably doing a really good job, but they've kind of hit the cap of like, I can't grow anymore the business because I just can't see any more people, and I can't grow my skills anymore because I just don't have time. Like I'm just always busy. And so they'll kind of plateau at that level. And that's that level where moving up above that into the like really long-term mentoring and business mastery level of the career, that's something you've been able to achieve, Brad, where you've stepped into the kind of business like bigger than just yourself, like an actual clinic owner.
That's a whole topic.
I know.
It's a whole new topic, and we don't have enough time. But
Yeah,
but that step of going, I'm going to put a person on. I'm going to bring that person on to work with me. And I never say to work for me. I hate that. Is that anyone that comes on, they work with us. They don't work for us.
yeah, that's
just
awesome.
Annoys the crap out of me. It's just I don't like hierarchy. So when we first made that decision, I knew that it was going to be a compromise. But compromises aren't sacrifices. So when you compromise, there's always good something comes from it. When you sacrifice, generally there's no good that comes from that for you as an individual. So it's only a compromise, and good comes from compromise. So when you, and again, we can do this again one day, where we talk about how to put on a therapist. And you've probably already done that 100 times. But the way I put on a therapist, the mindset I go through, the back end stuff we go through, how we set it up, the fear of, oh my God, I'm going to lose money on this person, the short-sightedness, the mid-term thoughts, the long-term thoughts, the financial side behind it. There's a whole lot that goes through it. But people say it can't be done, but that really annoys me when people say it can't be done, because we're doing it. And there's plenty of good clinics around the country are doing a great job of it, and creating such a fantastic entity for our profession to grow and to be perceived as not a third bedroom profession, but these guys look how professional they look and how professional they're acting. And man, I might actually want to become that one day. I'm going to tell little Johnny that he's a bit confused. I think you might want to look at this as a profession. So that's the way I look at it.
I love it. I was just going to say, I'm going to get people in the webinar chat there to type in the word please if they think we should have you back again to talk about that kind of next level of growth at some point. I guess because it does interest me as well. For people who know us, we do there's even a handful of our clients on this call, which is amazing. Great to have you here, and a bunch of people that I don't know. But we do two separate trainings. One is that kind of first level we're talking about, of kind of helping people just get enough clients and even get to a sustainable level in business as a solo operator. That's called Fully Booked Bootcamp. We've got one of those coming up at the end of July. And then we've got a mastery program, which is really around providing an environment and a relationship with other people who are at the same kind of level to kind of do the mentoring and get up to that, employing people and running trainings and that kind of stuff. What I'm going to do, I'm going to run the wheel. I'm going to do a prize draw for the MWax products, but I might also get anyone, if you're listening to some of what Brad's talking about and you're like, Brad is fantastic. James hasn't said much, but I can see that he knows a bit about what's going on. If you want some more info about the boot camp that we're running coming up, it's an 8-week business program. Just type bootcamp in the chat. I'll add you to a wait list and send you some info by email. So that way it's nice and easy. We don't have to bang on about it now, but type in bootcamp. I'll put that in there, bootcamp. And I'll email you through that info. And while you're doing that, type in bootcamp. I'm going to share this. So this is for MWax. Do you want to, how about we do the draw? I'm going to do things in order, Brad. We'll do this quick little draw, and then I'll get you to tell us a bit about MWax as a product and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Basically, I've grabbed a bunch of you guys that are in the meeting right now. I hope everyone, it's been a few minutes since I copied and pasted it, we'll see. But I'm going to spin this wheel. How do I spin it? I think I just click it. And it'll give us a name, right? Oh, is it? Oh, boy, it's a liner. No, it's Sally. Yay! Good work, Sally. So I know Sally quite well. She has been one of our clients for quite a long time through a couple of different programs. So awesome, Sally. I'm glad you won this. Is Sally on right now, though? Oh, because I did say, she is, yes. Awesome, Sally. Fantastic. Luckily, I know who Sally is, so I've got all those contact details. We can get in touch with Sally, which is amazing. That's $500 worth of MWax for Sally. Brad, do you want to give us the elevator pitch for the
elevator pitch? So MWax, when I left the institute, I didn't really like too much of what was out there in the market, and I thought how hard it would be to make our own. So I wanted something that wasn't an oil. I wanted something that was a solid, that had a better grip, and so I had more control over my techniques, which the oils didn't give me. So I wanted to go something wax-based. So after 38 prototypes and a whole of frustration, the therapist finally went, "That's good." And we started off with original. So it's wax-based, so it stores like a solid, spreads like an oil. And for me, it was all designed around having really good control over the techniques. So from that, we've now expanded that. So we've got a lot of people like to use myfacial release. So we've got a grip, which has got a much higher wax content. So when you put it on, you've got way more control and resistance. And then we've gone the other way. We've got a lotion. So for those people that do big, broad sweeping recovery massage or big hairy clients or something like that, then we've got less wax. So they're the three different substrates. And then we've expanded out into areas where people said, "Do you do a anti-inflammatory?" So we thought, well, if this is what the market wants, and also we wanted, so we've got one called Recover, which is for all your anti-inflammatory properties. We've got a sporty one with all your sporting essential oils, and then we've got a more for your olfactory stuff. So we've got one for that as well. So they've got those three different types, and we've got one specific one called Hotspot, which has capsaicin in it, which is specifically for local pain, neuralgia, and arthritis. So the basic is it's wax, and my focus is the control you get from having that wax-based lubricant, and then the grip and the lotion for the different types of therapists or applications you're using, and then you've got the essential oils, which is for your particular populations.
Yeah, I love it. And the MWax is what you were at conference exhibiting about, like promoting?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if anyone was at the conference or wants to meet you in person, you can come to one of the conferences that Brad and Renee do a fair bit of traveling around promoting the MWax and sharing it with people. And your actual clinics, we did have a few questions about that earlier, but your actual clinics are in Canberra. Is that right, Brad?
Yes, we have 4 clinics in Canberra. We used to run clinics all the way up the East Coast many years ago, which was fun. I learned a lot. So, but we've got the 4 clinics now.
Yeah.
There's about 35 therapists all up.
That is absolutely amazing. I am going to say thank you so much for sharing what you have today, Brad. It's been super enlightening. I think your stories are amazing. So many people can relate to different parts of that journey that you've been on. And those 5 rules, as we were going through those, I don't know if you've been watching the chat, but lots of people asking questions and getting engaged with what the rules are and really relating to that from their own experiences as well. So thank you so much. Absolute true legend of the industry. Very much appreciate you being here. We will finish up for today, but I am going to send you an email and ask if we can hook up another one, maybe in a few weeks or a couple of months or something, just to take it to the next level.
Sure. I'm very happy to be broad sweeping or be really technical. It depends what the person wants. It's like the first rule: understand what your patient wants.
Yeah, that's right.
We can go off in any tangent that the listeners would like to go to.
Love it. Thanks, Brad. We'll finish up there, and we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.
Bye.